aftermarket trading. Dillard's is raising its dividend by 10 cents a share. From NOAA, July was the second hottest month on Earth on record. That's since 1880 when records first were kept. A NOAA scientist says there's no denying it now. The new climate normal is upon us. YouTube TV adding 14 more cities, which can now watch its lineup of 50 live channels, included Boston, Tampa, and Seattle. Stephanie Shelton.
Pizza Hut knows what every man, woman, and child wants. The best deal in delivery. And Pizza Hut has a large 2-topping oven-hot pizza for just $7.99 when you order online. It's the best pizza delivery deal. That's a large 2-topping pizza for $7.99 from pizzahut.com, right to your door. Order online today, because no one out-pizzas the Hut.
Click for this offer. Delivery minimums and fees may apply. Additional charge for extra cheese, stuffed crust, and additional toppings. Product availability, prices, participation, and delivery areas may vary. The delivery charge is not a driver tip.
At 6 a.m., 40 million Americans are waking up to a Gillette shave. And at our factory in Boston, 1,200 workers are starting their day building on over 100 years of heritage and innovation. Today, we're bringing you America's #1 shave at lower prices every day, putting money back in the pockets of millions of Americans. I'm proud to bring you Gillette quality for less, because nobody can beat the men and women of Gillette. Go to GilletteOnDemand.com and get your 4th order free. Gillette, the best a man can get.
NBC News Radio, I'm Tom Roberts. Police in Barcelona say there are at least 13 people dead and over 100 hurt following a terrorist attack in Spain's second-largest city. The attack happened when a van plowed through a crowd in the popular tourist area of Las Ramblas. Police have arrested 2 people, and there are reports that another suspect was killed in a shootout by police. ISIS has claimed responsibility, saying that its soldiers carried out the attack. Meanwhile, Barcelona police confirmed that a driver ran over 2 officers at a checkpoint, but it's unclear if that's related to the Las Ramblas attack. The attack is getting a strong rebuke from President Trump. Lisa Carter has that.
The president tweeting that the U.S. is ready to do whatever is necessary to help. Trump advised Spaniards to remain tough and strong, adding, quote, "We love you."
Trump further tweets about an urban legend that Army General John Pershing ordered Muslim prisoners in the Philippines shot with bullets coated in pig's blood in the early 1900s and claims there was no more radical Islamic terror for 30 years. Vice President Mike Pence says the U.S. is in solidarity with Spain following the deadly terrorist attack in Barcelona.
The United States stands ready to assist the people of Spain and find and punish those responsible.
In Panama, Pence said Americans are sickened by the scenes of mayhem in Spain. Senator Bob Corker is laying into President Trump after Trump's comments about the deadly violence in Charlottesville, Virginia.
He also recently has not demonstrated that he understands the character of this nation. He has not demonstrated that he understands what has made this nation great.
In Chattanooga today, the Tennessee Republican said Trump has not shown the competence needed to lead the U.S. The maker of EpiPens will shell out hundreds of millions of dollars to settle claims it overcharged the government for the life-saving medical device. Federal prosecutors in Massachusetts today said Mylan and the Justice Department have completed the $465 million agreement. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio.
Look around your office. Is it time to change things up? Start a new home office or reorganize your professional office space? Visit Office Furniture Outlet in Corona and you'll feel great. With a huge inventory of both new and pre-owned office furniture, you can buy, sell, or even trade to get the job done. Office Furniture Outlet in Corona will get you looking and feeling good, and that simply means success and great business results. From executive office collections to home office options, you can find exactly what you need at an affordable price. Office Furniture Outlet. They have desk selections that range from modern and contemporary to traditional and elegant. With a large selection of sizes, finishes, and styles, you can design an office just the way you need it. An office you can be proud of. The Office Furniture Outlet in Corona is just south of the 91 freeway in McKinley at 284 DuPont Street, or visit OFOUSA.com. That's OFOUSA.com for the Office Furniture Outlet in Corona today.
KCAA Loma Linda, your CNBC news station, where your business comes first.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the greatest real estate investment show ever. Here's the flip-flop investor himself, Todd Bayer.
Hey everyone, how we doing out there? This is the Flip Flop Investor Show, and I am your host, Todd Bayer, the Flip Flop Investor. Every week we get together and talk about real estate investing here in the Inland Empire. And really, we can talk about investing anywhere, but most of the people we know are here in the Southern California area. So most of the people have expertise specific to this area. And we usually like to bring on an expert, and sometimes we bring on new people and talk about their experiences trying to get into real estate investing. But today we have a very experienced service provider in the industry, Brian Walker from Ryland Insurance Services. How you doing, Brian?
I'm actually doing good. This is fun, actually. I'm enjoying myself. It's middle of summer now, so we're right in the middle of fire season, which is always good for insurance agents. It's one of those things where, every day I wake up and I'm like, all right, what are we going to hear today?
Yeah, exactly.
What report are we going to hear? And as we move forward at the end of summer towards, September and everything else, you just never know. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and insurance, my dad, who was in the property and casualty field for his whole life, so I know quite a bit about property and casualty. I've never been insured for property and casualty, so anything I say, just hold me harmless here, because I don't know anything about insurance really. But that's why we bring Brian on, because Brian, you're licensed. Obviously, you know your way around a actuarial table. So
we don't use those too much anymore, though. No. When I first started, we actually had different stuff, and I talked to the old timers about slide rules and everything else, and how they, counted with rocks, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's great. Now it's all pretty much computer based and generated, and you punch in numbers and you get a formula, and that's how it works now.
Yeah,
it's a little bit different than
the
slide
rules have been converted to ones and zeros on the computer.
Yeah, the graphs, the charts, you got to look at the thing. Yeah, it's totally different now.
Yeah. Okay, so obviously for investors, insurance is a big deal because we want to try to cover any potential insurable loss, really.
Right.
The main ones being fire, flood, wind damage, I suppose, could be considered one of them, and even earthquake, which a lot of investors don't really take advantage of, the earthquake side. But insurance products are not exactly the same for an investor as they would be for a regular homeowner. Correct. But this is a homeowner's policy, essentially, right? I mean, what sort of policy, we'll just jump right in.
Yeah.
What sort of policy is the best type for people flipping a house?
Yeah, and you're right on target. The major things you're going to do when you're flipping a house, because if you're buying a house, and we're assuming a fixer-upper to flip, we're not saying you're going to buy a house and hold it and everything else. You're going to buy a house that's maybe has some things wrong with it, whether or not it needs paint. You want to move a bathroom, you want to add a bathroom, you want to add a second wing, that kind of thing. You're not necessarily just going to get insurance package for what is there now. You want to get, more importantly, what's going to be there in, say, the next 3, 6, 9 months, a year when you finish the house. And so the other details you don't need are your personal property. You're not going to have couches and TVs or anything in there on a traditional flip because you just don't have it until you're ready to stage it, maybe. But at the most part, you're not really having those things. So you really want to buy it as a shell. So it's of course a construction policy or builder's risk, depending on which carrier you're talking to. And that pretty much just covers what that point is, the building itself. And then for the most important thing too is liabilities on there also. Attractive nuisances. You got neighborhood kids that are like, oh, look, a house, and they left the door open.
Sure.
And all of a sudden, they go, oh, look, let's go in there real fast. So they run in there, but you got loose boards and you got maybe a floor that's not, finished because they're finishing it on Thursday and it's Tuesday, and they fall through the floor, or they're kicking down walls and that kind of thing. So liability is a big issue, and of course, unfortunately, kids sometimes vandalize stuff because they want to spray paint and they want to do things, and those kind of issues happen, and then. Maybe one case, a good story for me was a couple years ago. I did a policy, and they actually had new windows being put in. Going from single pane to triple pane, all this stuff. And one day, the windows got delivered in a big pallet, right out front or right in the back. There's a big thing there. And of course, it sat there, and it sat there all night because they were going to install the windows the next day. Well, day goes by, next thing you know, the workers show up at 8, 9 in the morning next day, and where are the windows we ordered? There's a blank, wood pallet sitting there, but there's no windows there. And that was a big issue because, I forget how much it was, $25,000, $30,000 of windows. We're talking a big house, triple pane, nice all these, windows, really nice windows. Nice stuff. And they're gone. And what do? And that's not really personal property. That's, because that's not, you can't move that stuff. That's building property. So we covered that loss because it was theft. It's what it was.
Yeah. And so in a case like that, I know negligence is a big deal in the insurance world, so they wouldn't determine that the builder might have been a little negligent leaving it outside?
Yeah, that's the hard thing. You could always prove it a little bit, some connection, somebody's doing, who knew it was going to be there? That's kind of who knew the windows were. But overall, you could put fences and posts and signs and everything, even a security guard there. I mean, something could happen. You know, if somebody wants it, I had a professor back in college, and he said locks are made for honest people. Because honestly, you know, honest people, we're not going to break a lock. You know, you have a lock on your desk or something, we're not going to break it. But someone that wants it bad enough that's a thief or something is going to do whatever. They're going to break bank vaults and everything else. So, I mean, you distract the security guard and you take it. Now, is that negligence? I mean, you just never know. It depends on what kind. And whoever thought that someone was going to take windows? You know what I mean?
It's true. It's such because it's specific to it.
The sizes and everything else. Unless you're doing something around the corner, I mean,
the exact same type.
You don't just run away with windows, run down the street.
Somebody probably figured they could get something for them. Who knows? Maybe they're going to build a custom house. And
Maybe
use
they
those
are.
windows as their starting point.
I know, right? Yeah, they could build a house around windows. But yeah, that was actually one that we actually had. But we've had a few things, scaffolding too. If you're talking multi-level for commercial properties or 2 or 3 story buildings, scaffolding topples for whatever reason. You know, they just set it up wrong and the wind takes it, or some guy falls. So those kind of things take it.
Damages the house in the process, or if somebody gets hurt in the process.
Yeah.
So I guess that sort of brings us to another side of it. Aside from just building materials being stolen or vandalism, then there's also, like you said, liability. So if you say hire an uninsured worker, if you hire somebody directly, what's your risk there?
Yeah, and that's the importance of hiring an actual real general contractor that has license, bonded, insured, and everything else. Because really, you don't want anybody on there, and I get that a lot too, where even myself, and we'll talk about it probably later, but I don't really know, I'm not a general contractor by any means, but I know a little bit, and I can swing a hammer, and that's about where I get. We'll see, I get laughed at by some of the real general contractors. But if you hire somebody that's, your cousin's brother's cousin, uncle that comes on property and he slips and falls, it's one of those gray areas whether they're covered or not. Because is he hired by you, the owner, or is he hired by them? Is he going to sue you? Those kind of things. So you want to have a general contractor oversee the whole project, just because if something happens, it's going to be on them. Especially if it's one of their workers also.
Right.
If it's one of their workers, they should have work comp, they should have coverage, they should have everything in place so to take you off the risk as the homeowner. but
if you're going to, as a homeowner, buy not buy, but if you're going to have an unlicensed worker come work at your house, you might want to consider getting workers' compensation insurance, like you kind of mentioned before, and you have to also put them on payroll, don't you?
Yeah, that'd be a little rough. I wouldn't know if going towards workers' comp because of that reason. But if you had a company, if you're going to be doing this a lot, you're not, other than the casual guy who buys a house once a year or whatever. Yeah, you might want to look at doing something more because there's a lot of other benefits to having that kind of thing and paying those costs and doing those things.
I mean, for those people out there that may not know, I mean, not everybody out there that works on every single house is insured or licensed, because sometimes you have a guy that works for a licensed contractor and has worked for a licensed contractor for many years, and they have the skills. They're the ones that actually do the work. Sometimes they do side work, where they'll do jobs on the side on the weekends or on a weekday when they don't have anything else going on. Yeah. So, but it is risky from the insurance perspective because if they get hurt on the job site, hopefully they don't. But if they do, ultimately it comes down to you as the homeowner to take responsibility for that. So,
but if there's a guy that has his own company, he maybe doesn't have employees, but it's just him, handyman or something like that. I mean, assuming that they have a company, you should be okay in that point of it.
Yeah. Maybe, just make sure you check their credentials.
Yeah.
Make sure they have.
It never hurts. It never hurts to know who's on your property too. I mean, it just never hurts.
Of course.
It has people coming. Anybody's coming on that property, and wear the proper protection too. You know, everybody's looking around. You got some insurance agent walking around going, look at that, let me see, and then something falls on my head. It's a problem, that kind of thing. So.
See, I remember growing up, my dad. We had like a trampoline in our backyard. My dad was always worried having the neighborhood kids come over and jump on the trampoline because he always thought that one of them was going to get hurt. Yep. They're going to prove us negligent in that. And then he's got that pay out of the pocket. For
we had that. I had a girl break her arm on a neighbor's trampoline. We insured the house and they had a trampoline. I don't believe it had a net because now you need kind of nets to have for most companies. They need a full 360 net.
If they're going to insure it.
Yeah, if they're going to insure it. Yeah, and I can't remember exactly if they had one or not. But lady, bottom line, they were doing flips and the girl broke her arm. It was a neighbor and we paid out a couple $1,000 to have her set her arm.
Yeah. Hey, you can thank people like us because when I was a kid, we had a kid. He fell off. He broke his femur. Broke his leg.
His femur. That's the worst.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. We had tons of kids fall on their neck wrong. Nobody broke a neck, thankfully. But that trampoline was like we didn't have a net.
They're fun until someone gets hurt. I mean, that's it. It's all fun and games. Until someone breaks something. Yeah, it's awful.
But so I mean, that's insurance. That's what it's there for. Really, is in the event something that you didn't plan for to have happens, which they do, obviously, because you see this stuff in the insurance world. Also, in addition to those types of things, a builder's risk policy would cover fire and flood.
Yes.
Which flood doesn't necessarily mean that a river is going to overflow and take your house out. I mean, what other types of floods are there?
Well, there's pipe breakage. Pipe breakage is most common. People say, yeah, my room flooded, my living room, my bathroom flooded.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't really flood. Flood is like when literally a creek or a river or a dike breaks or something that comes through a dam, And I've seen that happen too, where literally water just goes right through. They open the front door and they open the back door and the water goes right through. It's crazy. And for them, it was natural. They had all tile floors. It just went because they're next to a creek bed. So.
That's just what they do. Huh?
That's just what they did, and they knew it. They knew it was going to happen, and it flash flooding. So pipe break is a big thing. You're sitting there, and an elbow gives out for whatever reason. An elbow on the one of the
faucet or something.
Yeah, I was thinking faucet, drain, something like that.
Drain,
breaks. Yeah, those leak, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, a small leak, but you don't fix it because it's behind a cabinet or whatever. But all of a sudden and accidental, it pops for whatever reason, and now it's flooding. For lack of a better word, your entire thing. Those things would be covered too.
Yeah.
Which is a big thing for most people because you come home, especially when you come home. I do a lot of vacation rentals and landlord policies up in Big Bear and second homes and things, and. These people, they close the door and they don't come back for 1, 2, 3 weeks, maybe a month, 2 months, and they walk back. I had one guy come back. He had 4 inches of water. He was gone for 2 months. We have no, between whatever it was, but it was the angle stop behind the washer that broke.
Oh, okay.
Just random. The washer wasn't on. It just gave out, and the water just came out. And we came in. It was a couple $100,000 because you figure that water had seeped up. If you know anything about restoration and stuff, that water had seeped up 3 or 4 feet up the wall, just saturated the whole thing. So we had to replace all that to get rid of the mold that was going to start and that kind of stuff. It was a mess.
Yeah, that's a big project.
But he was gone. You couldn't pin it on him because he just didn't come home for a couple months because it was a second home.
Yeah, so how you gonna plan for an angle stop breaking? Yeah. That's hard to do. Yeah, I know a lot of people up in the mountains because of the winter time. Pipes have the risk of freezing, so they will tend to winterize their house where they actually drain all the pipes out, so there's nothing in the pipes in the home, so nothing like that will happen. Mm-hmm. And then obviously shut the water off, drain the toilets, all the stuff that you're supposed to do. Yep.
You put antifreeze too. Antifreeze in the toilets. That does it also. Antifreeze in toilets and the kitchen sinks under the P-traps and everything. You do all those different things to make them go.
Yeah, because once they freeze, they might break a joint, and since there's nothing running through it, and then once you turn the water on. Then you realize you have a leak, so...
done it a few times, yeah.
Lots of fun.
Yeah, I've been an agent for 15 years. I've been working in Big Bear for about 14 now, based out of Menifee also. So I've seen a few things, and I've had those what-if conversations. Well, what if this happened? We can what-if all day, but when it comes down to it is the two common words when you're talking about insurance is sudden and accidental. Mm-hmm. That's the key. A tree falls on you. Yeah, that was sudden. If you have we're talking about leaks and pipes, and if you have a small leak that's just dripping, just constant dripping, it's not really sudden and accidental. Yeah, it was probably accidental. You didn't mean for it to happen, but kind of, a lot of under the sink and stuff, when there's mold growing and everything else, that wasn't really sudden and accidental.
Yeah.
So if something pops, something breaks, something for whatever reason, you knock into it, you push something in it, and it just pops. Those kind of covers are usually going to be covered for the most part. But yeah, sudden and accidental. So if you want to talk about anything about insurance, 2 words, sudden and accidental, is 2 words you got to remember.
Yeah, unless it's something that's behind a wall, like a slow drip behind a wall, and nobody sees it, nobody knows about it.
Oh yeah, slab leaks are bad. Slab leaks are really so you have a concrete slab, and the pipe breaks in it for whatever reason. It could be a tree root, or just could be because the earthquake shifted the thing. Then you got to dig through the concrete, which is a mess. You got to dig up whatever floor you have. Jackhammer the concrete. You're talking about 3 to 6 feet worth of whatever because they got to find where the leak was.
Right.
Then they got to patch it, do all that, and then replace it. Yeah, and you can't do it. Most people find out a slab leak because they're standing somewhere where it's tile and it's warm. The ground's warm.
Yeah.
Why is the ground warm?
Right.
Because their hot water is going underneath it, and because it's just pooling underneath there. So yeah, slab leaks are awful.
Yeah, that's some of the worst because it almost makes the case for a raised foundation home.
Yeah.
Because they're so much easier to work on when stuff like that happens.
They are.
And usually you figure out that there's a leak underneath a home a lot quicker with stuff like that.
A lot of times now when that happens, they're actually repiping the stuff through the attic if it's available.
Yeah.
So they'll repipe all the pipes through the attic. That way you don't have to worry about the concrete slab and everything. Yeah, right. If there is a loss, if it does break, you know it's because it's leaking.
Right.
And that is really easy to find, and you don't lose none of that. Another thing too is people get water bills. You're paying $100, $150 for a water bill, and then next month it's $400.
Yeah.
Whoa, wait, something.
What happened?
Why is it $400? I don't
You're
understand.
really thirsty that month.
Yeah. That little stream that's going out, downhill wherever you're out your driveway or whatever. Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Fix those things.
So that's flips are an animal in and of itself, but then there's also, like you said, some rental properties. You don't need a builder's risk policy on a rental home, but you do have to carry a policy that's a little different than a typical homeowner's policy.
Yes, correct. Yeah, usually typically called a landlord policy is what they are is full-time rentals, that kind of thing. Again, some people have a little bit of personal property in there. You might have a washer and dryer or a refrigerator that you let the tenant use, maybe drapes, even some as small as drapes. But those things add up. So you would really want to just cover the actual building itself, the structure of the home itself, and then also your own liability, and then the little small bit of personal property on there. Also, loss of rents, too, is a big deal. So obviously, if someone has a loss and they got to move out of that house, we're not so worried about where they're going, but we're worried about you losing the rent that you were getting.
Right.
So that's kind of thing. So financially, you're hurt because they had a loss or whatever reason too. But those are very important too for liability because, say that person has a dog, and whether or not you know about the dog or whatever, that dog bites somebody, they're going to sue the person that lives there, but they're also going to sue you, or possibly sue you as a landlord because you knew about the dog or you didn't know about the dog,
right.
And it's dog's fault. It's your fault. You rented to him, and that was a problem.
Sure.
And that's a big issue. Or if they have a house party or something, and someone falls or slips, hurts themselves. Well, it's your fault. You let them have a party.
Yeah.
It's the deep pocket theory. This great state that we have, California. If we're talking just California, but you can sue anybody for anything, and they're going to go after the deep pockets, and that's you want to protect yourself. Especially if you have assets, you have your own house, and you have rental property, that kind of thing. You probably have some assets, so you want to protect those things in case of a lawsuit. And it's not that expensive to do either.
Sure.
The amount of coverage you have.
Yeah, especially when you consider the cost of a lawsuit, and especially when you consider the cost of just the damages itself.
It's not even the lawsuit; it's fighting the lawsuit too.
Yeah.
They could sue you for $100,000, but the cost to fight it, if you're in the right, that could be more than that.
Yeah.
It's just yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to get started on that of the lawsuit.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Amounts, but yeah, there's things you see that come across the pipes, and you're just like, wow, that happened. All right.
Yep.
Right.
It's tough for lawyers to make friends. That's for sure.
Exactly.
So. In a landlord policy, you're covering a little bit less than what a normal homeowner's policy would cover. So you're not really covering the stuff inside of it. Right. That would typically fall under like a tenant policy, right? And the tenants can get their own insurance that would cover their stuff.
Yeah, we typically call it renter's policy. Yes.
Yeah.
So the renters would get a renter's policy that would cover their contents, what they have, and then also them for live somewhere else if they had to, and their own liability too. And that liability again is kind of underlying. It doesn't really protect the homeowner, but again, if you're going to sue somebody, you're going to sue them first. So
right.
you're behind there. But the thing about cost though too, people say that it is less coverage. However, sometimes they cost about the same. Sometimes a little less. It depends on exactly where it's at, even if it's down the street. But
there's probably a bit of a fraud factor built into that
yeah,
somewhere.
And they figure that if you own your own house, there's a pride of ownership there. So you're going to take care of your house too. And maybe a renter will not take care of your property as well as their own house, that kind of thing. The same thing with secondary is you're not insuring a lot of the stuff because a lot of you get this all the time is all that stuff is all yard sale stuff. I don't care about anything in that house.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Well, but it still might cost about the same because it's a secondary house. In the same scenario I mentioned earlier about that guy was gone for 2 months, came home, and there's water loss. Well, if you're coming home every day at 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock or whatever time you get home, you're checking that every single day.
Right.
You don't come home for 2 months, there's a problem. And that's why the secondary homes can be a little more expensive too because you're not physically there all the time.
Yeah, it makes sense. And the insurance companies over the years have refined their calculations based upon risk is really what it's about. It's mitigating their risk because they don't want to, open themselves up to too many potential claims coming in. But at the same time, they have to make money because insurance companies are for profit. So
sure.
They're not trying to do it for free.
Yeah,
I know we don't love
everything. I know. They have the whole hierarchy of everything. So yes, yeah.
So as much as some people might hate having to lay out the money, I know we have a property going right now. I hate making that premium payment, but it's in a high fire risk area. Right. So I'm going to pay a lot more just because there's a lot of brush around this property. So that's that fire line score.
Yeah, that's a good point. So fire line score is basically your proximity. There was a couple different factors. I mean, people think it's just brush. But proximity to brush is the major one. Also proximity to, say, a fire department. or fire hydrants too. Those are big issues. How far away are you? What kind of station is it? Is it a full-time station? Is it a volunteer? Is it a large station? They rate all the stations as far as how big they are, and that kind of, how many firefighters they have on full-time, that kind of thing. And so all those different factors go into your fire line score, and based on 1 to 10, 1 being the best, 10 being like really bad. Actually, more than 10 now. I think they're 12 or 13 now. It's ridiculous as far as I've seen. But 13 is like, yeah, it's going to burn tomorrow. Like it's
exactly.
going to go. It's going to be
there's
out.
literally a fire going on as we're looking at it. Yeah.
I mean, a 1 or 2 would probably be downtown Riverside, where if a fire breaks out, there's probably a reason. There's no brush around here. So those kind of issues, and that's what you look into for the fire line score, and obviously the mountain areas. A lot of San Diego County too, out in the outlier and things. I mean, they're building houses. I mean, I'm not a contractor, but they build houses somehow. I'm looking at these things. They're on the side of a slope, and a 75-degree angle. I mean, I'm looking like, how do you even get to that house, let alone build it? And then you got to insure it, and then, of course they have avocado groves and different stuff all around it. Oh man,
sure,
this is gonna be awful.
Yeah. Hey, people want to live in San Diego,
Yeah, I mean, that's good. I mean, if that's where you want to live, sure, no problem. But you're going to pay for insurance.
Of course.
That's kind of what it is,
Yeah, and typically your policy is going to be based upon the cost to rebuild, right? I mean, that's pretty much where your cost mostly comes from.
That's a good point, yeah. So when people see that, there's a difference between value and replacement cost. Okay, I get that all the time. Round numbers. Let's just say I'm gonna replace a house for $100,000. They say, well, I only bought it for $80,000. Like, okay, I'm using obviously low numbers in Southern California, but it's possible. Okay, we'll talk about that in a little.
Sure, yeah.
But you buy a house for $80,000, but you want to insure it for $100,000, and people are like, well, no, I only bought it for $80,000. It's only worth $80,000. Okay, well, what it's worth is completely different than what it costs to rebuild it.
Right.
Because not only rebuild costs is if that house burns down, you've got a couple 100 tons of charred remains, wood, metal, you name it, sitting there. Well, that's got to go somewhere.
Somewhere.
Okay, so someone's got to come in, pick it up with a bulldozer or a crane or whatever else, get it out there, then ship it somewhere, and then, of course, dumping fees because it's hazardous materials at that point, and get rid of it. So all those things cost money to do.
Yeah.
And then maybe you got to set foundations and do all the different stuff to rebuild the house. So it's not necessarily just the cost of materials and then the cost of labor and everything else. There's all these other different factors. Even permits and architectural fees are all included in the cost to replace the house.
Right.
So that's what we're insuring for. On the other side, you get the same house that's $100,000 you buy for $100,000 here in say Riverside, maybe in Hemet or Menifee you buy for $100,000, probably not. But you put that house on the outskirts of Malibu, and you put it on the shores overlooking the ocean. Well, now it's a $1.5 million house.
Right.
Okay. Well, we're not going to insure it for $1.5 million. We're going to insure it for $100,000 because the rebuild costs $100,000. So people always say that too. A lot of mortgage companies will say, no, we want to insure our risk, insure the amount of money that we have loaned out for $1.5 million.
Right.
And we're like, no, because if you or I were insured a house for $1.5 million and it's worth $100,000, not saying we would do it, but we burn that thing to the ground, and then you build a $1.5 million house.
Yeah, exactly.
And you go crazy with it. But so that's not the way insurance works at all, because you can't do that.
Yeah, because like in some of those areas, you guys, which book do you guys use to determine building costs?
360 value.
Okay.
What cost? Yeah, estimator.
Okay. So 360 value, they're going to estimate, and obviously things are different. If in Malibu,
sure,
it is a little bit more expensive.
Labor costs are different. Yes.
Contractors are probably charging right now like $250 a square foot to build. Yeah. However, homes right now out there like $1,000 to $2,000 a square foot to buy. So you're paying a lot for that land and the access to the fires that you want to be involved in. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, and value goes into, we don't, for insurance, we don't care about school districts. That's a big thing. When you're buying a house, you want, if you have kids, you want to go to a school district. You want
crime rate.
Yeah, crime rate, because we don't really care about a whole lot about those. Well, for theft, I guess. But, those kind of things that why you would buy a house doesn't necessarily translate into why you would insure the house, what we care about for it, too. So, we don't care about your view or how big your land. People are like, I bought 20 acres. I want, well, we don't care about their land. Who cares? Because land's not going anywhere. Yeah.
What difference does it make?
The brush area. Yeah. So we don't care about how much you spent on your land because land's there. Unless you have a volcano that blows up in your front door. Okay, that's a problem. But all those different factors, value is what you pay for the house, not necessarily what you rebuild it. So I get that conversation. I must have that 2 or 3 times a week, with people.
So what's not covered?
Not through your standard homeowner's policy, let's say, or anything else. Earthquake is the biggest thing. Like
earthquake.
Earthquake is not covered. Typically, you can buy that through the CEA here in California, the California Earthquake Authority. That's run through the government, kind of a government program. You can buy private companies; they'll also do it too. It just depends on where exactly you're at. proximity to fault lines and that kind of thing.
Right.
So that's possible.
Yeah, we have a policy through Zurich actually.
Yep.
For earthquake on my own home.
Yep, exactly. So private party, yeah.
Yeah, because CEA turned out to be quite a bit more expensive.
Yeah, and the deductibles are large with no flexibility at all too.
Yeah.
They're 10 or 15% of the dwelling, which so that can be $40,000-$50,000 of a deductible.
Yeah.
So I mean they're only insuring you really for the big one when it really happens.
Exactly.
That's kind of the thing. They're really insuring you for that. Other than that, flood insurance. We've talked about the water. I mean, if one of the rivers here just went sideways and went burrowing through a neighborhood, okay, that's probably not going to be covered because a flood's a flood. New Orleans going through right now. I mean, I don't know how they ever do stuff, but bring that up. We're lucky in California. We talk about fire in Florida and some of the other states and everything else. The government years ago was subsidizing all the premiums. So you were paying, again, round numbers. You're paying $1,000 a year for flood insurance, but realizing that the government was subsidizing this whole money. So technically, your actual premium was $30,000 to $40,000 a year to have flood insurance. I mean, we're talking big bucks.
That's big.
They stopped that right at the end of the last term. It had nothing to do with the current term of president now. This is before. Years back, they stopped doing that because basically FEMA ran out of money. There was no more money. After Katrina and a bunch of the other floods, they couldn't protect it anymore. So all those subsidies were gone. So now to buy a house in the Gulf states and everything else, the hardest point is the houses are cheap, sure, great, but unless you're paying cash, you've got to buy an insurance policy for $40,000 a year.
Yeah.
So people are priced out of the market because they're like, no, I'm not going to buy there. I'm not going to spend $40,000. And by the way, it's going to flood within the next 2 or 3 years anyway.
Another hurricane's
I don't
coming.
want to live there. Yeah. So those issues are huge. So we talk about fire here in California, but other parts of the state, I mean, you talk about tornadoes too, and the hurricanes are a big deal. Just everywhere. I think Hawaii with volcanoes. I mean, you go everywhere, all 50 states, or even around, there's always something. Mother Nature, there's always just something going to hit you.
So for example, in Paris, there's a neighborhood that's like right below Lake Paris's dam. There was a concern years ago. I think they've fixed the dam quite a bit. I think it's May Ranch is what it's called.
Villages of Avalon too is right there. I lived there for 2 years. It was my first house I bought actually. Yeah.
So if that dam were to break and Lake Paris were just to drain all into that neighborhood, you're saying that wouldn't be covered by their?
That was actually a big deal. Yeah, they didn't want to build the Paris Boulevard there, or that exit, because they were afraid that the water would carry along down the road and go out to the surrounding areas. Yes, typically no, that wouldn't be covered. I would see in that kind of area though, one of those unforeseen. I mean, that would be horrific. It would probably be somewhere like some government entity would come in and help you out with that.
Yeah,
but
if their angle stop bust on their bathtub upstairs and the house gets flooded, that would be covered.
That'd be covered,
yeah.
We had a fish tank one time too. We had a 150-gallon fish tank. One of our houses, it fell over. Like it was too heavy for the
table or whatever.
Table was on. Yeah, table just collapsed. And literally, I look at this house, and it was on the second floor, of course, right in the hallway. Real beautiful, real nice. And it just, the whole thing broke. All the fish are dead. It was like, you got 150 gallons of water just coming through the ceiling. So we had to cover that too. Just stupid things.
And they didn't have any policies on any of those rare fish they had.
Huh? They're nothing. Yeah, a bunch of stupid. Yeah, I can't remember what they were.
Yeah, exactly. Pet store type fish.
Yeah. But it was sad. There was just.
Of course,
Wow, there's 150 gallons just like that. Sudden and accidental though.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, you don't expect to have your fish tank just buckle under the pressure and break. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing just collapsed. Yeah.
So those things not being covered. Okay, so flood. But that's also not a really big risk here in California. We don't have a lot of rivers, and the rivers that we do have, like in Riverside, we got the Santa Ana River, which is pretty well contained. That river doesn't get to the point of being, some crazy thing like we see in the, in the Midwest or something where whole mobile home parks get taken out from some river that gets over flooded.
We're pretty lucky. I mean, you look at all of the different stuff that we have with flood controls and canals and stuff, and you think, it's been dry for 5 years. That's never going to, why would they ever even build that? Why would they waste the money? You could use that land for a park or whatever else. And then there's that one time where you look over, you're driving across the freeway, and you're like, wow, look at that. There's this rushing water going down.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the engineers that put it together, call it what you will, the state engineers, whatever, Caltrans, do a pretty good job of keeping that together.
Yeah.
Because you just never know.
Yeah. Here at the office, we had one day, the rain was coming down really, really good. This is maybe 3-4 years ago. Yeah. And, the whole street down here on Main Street had flooded, and cars, the water was literally like touching the bottoms of the cars down there. And if it had gotten a little higher, it probably would have started moving the cars around.
Yeah.
You know, that's probably about the craziest. Yeah. It was just one of those it was during the summertime, you know, one of those like monsoon rains that just happened in the middle of the day.
It happens. And never drive through those things either. I mean, that's the people that, oh, I can make that. Because once that car just lifts a quarter of an inch, you're done. You're gone. It's going sideways, and next thing you know, you're in the canal behind it. And that's,
right. And then
don't do that.
And then the guy behind you is behind you.
Yeah. Don't do that. So anyway, that's our service announcement there.
Yeah, there you go.
Don't do flooded channels. Yeah. But yeah, so I think we're okay. We're pretty good here. I mean, it'll take a 100-year flood to have something really bad damage, you know. But yeah, you look at the news in New Orleans, the pictures and stuff like that, even coming out like right now. It's just awful. I mean,
it's not nearly rebuilt to what it was. Not even close. Yeah. There's just still a lot of depression, and you know, it's going to take a long time.
It just happens. And how do you rebuild it? You know, every couple of years. I don't know. That's not me.
Yeah.
I'll take the fire. I'll take the fire risk and do that and the traffic and stuff. But the floods. And flood is dangerous, obviously too. You know, you never know. Drowning is. A lot of people hear that all the time.
Sure.
But I think we're getting off topic as far as
we're
talking about
we're talking about
floods,
other things. But you know what? I mean, we're kind of talking a little bit about the what's insured and what's not insured. Right. And I'm sure you've seen some stuff that people have submitted claims for before that didn't get, what would you say, approved or whatever. They didn't get, paid out. So what are some of the things that people have submitted that didn't get approved?
Most of the time it is mold. It's that drippy faucet that has been leaking for years and saturated something behind the cabinets or whatever else, and you just didn't know it. I mean, it's sad, but that's kind of what doesn't get covered a lot. Mold is mold needs time to grow, and if it needs time, it's not sudden and accidental.
Right.
And that's what hits it right there. So that knocks it out. Other than that, for the most part, I talk about auto insurance. I had one lady. It was a fight between a husband and wife, and they were divorcing and they were separated legally and everything else. But both people were on the title of the car, and they both had the insurance. Well, this lady decides, she hates her husband and it's his car, so she drives it through the house. Okay. Well, the problem was the whole situation was, number one, the car's in her name, the house is in her name, so technically she just did it herself and damaged her own stuff on purpose. Yeah. So she did it on purpose, and you can do whatever you want to with it. I mean, if you want to break down walls and drive a car off a cliff,
go for it.
You can do it all you want to. It's not sudden and accidental, or it's not accidental, I should say, if you do it on purpose. So those kind of things, people are like, oh yeah, we're like, yeah. I mean, I remember they talked to the adjuster, like, we're not going to cover that because she did it on purpose.
Right.
Like, all right. So yeah, you can't do things on purpose and then expect it. You can burn down your house. I haven't had that. So I mean, but you can't burn down your house and go, oops.
Yeah,
Sorry,
there's been plenty of people, I know that have started to try to burn the house down to collect the insurance money, but they actually investigate these things.
There's sophisticated ways to prove that you did or didn't, or what caused it, that kind of stuff. Yeah, they look really good into those things, and with technology today, with all the the infrared things, I mean, you can tell how it started, where it started, and what. I mean,
what started.
Even gas. Why would you have gasoline in your living room? You think about that, unless you're repairing dirt bikes in there. You had gasoline, an infrared camera will tell you, there's gasoline here. Okay, well, why was it all along the walls? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so don't do that. Don't
don't try that. Don't try to rip off the insurance companies.
Yeah, don't do that.
But, so my dad, just to kind of jump off topic for a second, he was there was a lot of claims coming in from like workers' compensation, and so they would hire like surveillance companies to go out and like watch these people, and you'd see them out there mowing their lawn like nothing's wrong with their hip like they claimed it was, and then they bring them in to these like little mediation sessions, and they show them the videotape of them mowing the lawn, and they're like, really, come on. It's pretty bad when people try to defraud the insurance companies.
They do. They take all that seriously. They really do. With the margins that they make, and it seems like they make millions and billions and everything else, but with the margins they actually make after paying off everything, it's very slim. And I forget the number. It's in the billions though for fraudulent claims.
Oh, sure.
And that's a lot of reasons why insurance is so high in California, because we have so many fraudulent claims, especially with auto insurance. You get hit into an auto insurance accident, and all of a sudden your chiropractor's there, your doctor's there, your attorney's there within 2 minutes, and you're like,
right.
Oh, okay. Yeah. In the accident, we're not really sure whose fault it was in the accident. So those things, that's what causes, that's what drives up insurance, because people are doing fraudulent things.
Definitely. Yeah, so back to real estate, I guess.
Right,
Back
exactly.
to real estate. Let's before we talk about real estate a little bit more, let's talk a little bit about the club, because the Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club is a big thing. We have it here in the Inland Empire. We have this where all the people that invest here locally, they all come. Not everybody. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't, but
no, they all come.
Everybody
Everybody
comes.
comes.
Everybody that means anything in the investment world.
104,000 people. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They all come. But Ryland Insurance Services, you guys are one of the sponsors of our club.
Yes.
Which we didn't do sponsors for a while. Yeah. We kept it sponsor free because we, for whatever reason, just felt like we didn't want to have sponsors sort of muddy the waters or something and attach themselves to the group and not really have a chance to vet those people. But we've vetted all the sponsors that, and it's no secret that every policy that we write on every property we do is through you guys, through Ryland Insurance Services. So you guys are sponsoring the club, and that's all going to kick off really. What kicked off last month, we started putting out the booklet. You're in there now, the logo and everything. But next month, actually, why am I saying next month? This month in August, we're having our new location.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting. Very excited to see that.
Yeah, so we're excited to have it come down. So all the people out there that are interested in getting into real estate investing, or people that are looking to meet with other real estate investors, perhaps you have a service that you offer to the industry. There's lenders, there's all kinds of different people, escrow, title, insurance even. I know you don't want any other competition there, but there are some cases where you guys don't cover everything.
Yeah, it's true.
There are some things I know that we haven't had that problem yet, but we'll keep throwing them at you and see if we can get one that you guys won't insure. But
true, right? Yeah.
We'll just keep. We'll try to find that one that's in an active fire right now.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How we doing, Brian? We got that one.
Let's get it done quick, real fast now.
Yeah.
Not that I would do that at all, ever.
Yeah, exactly.
Ever.
Yeah, don't. Anyway, if you guys want to come out and meet some other investors or some of the people that serve the industry, come out to the Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club. All the information can be found on meetup.com. And that's meetup.com. Look for the Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club. We're right around 3,000 members right now, and very, very big meeting. We have generally about 150 to 200 people now a month coming to the meeting, and it's a lot of fun. We have one big meeting, and we also have a networking meeting where we do a Saturday morning coffee thing. And we also do a happy hour thing. Usually this month was karaoke. We had a blast. You guys missed out. And we are also going to do the cash flow game. Yep. Yeah, the cash flow game is always on the first Wednesday of every month, where we play the board game created by Robert Kiyosaki, who's the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's a great way to learn real estate. It's like a seminar disguised as a fun board game. Yeah. People come out. They usually have dinner because it's a restaurant and bar, so you can have dinner, play the game, have a drink or two, have some fun. It's usually a lot of fun anyway. So go to meetup.com, Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club. Check it out. We'd love to have you there.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I started in November 2016 because really I started getting phone calls from you and Steven, and it was one of those things like, what are you guys doing? Why are you calling me every, like, is new? Oh, your new property. Okay, great. Oh, you have a new property. Okay. What are you guys doing? So my whole thing was, I got to figure out what you guys are doing. What's going on here? I've been doing it, like I said, insurance 15 years. It's been good. But I got to that point where I'm like, all right, what's going on? And I went to that first meeting in November, and you walk into a room, and as nice a room as it is, and you see a couple hundred people, and you're like, all right, this is, where do I begin? Yeah. Oh, cookies, there it is. All right, good. So you go over there and you get some coffee and cookies. But then you start talking to people, and in this group, you got the full spectrum. You got the brand new people who are just walking in who just, I want to look into real estate, to the people like yourself and other mentors and things that have been doing this for 30, 40 years, and that's what all full-time they do. So you get the energy from every spectrum. Everybody's happy, and it's amazing to be in a room full of people that want you to be successful.
Right.
Because so often you go in places and you're like, oh, you're doing that? Yeah. Tell me how it goes. Let me know how it works out for you.
Sure.
But you walk into the Empire Real Estate Club, and everybody in there is like, what are you doing right now? That's awesome. You know, congratulations, dude. Let's go. That's great. You need help with that? What can I do for you? And all of a sudden you realize, like, you're not alone out there. You know? And you do the segment Todd's Problems, which I think is a lot of fun. And if you are in the investment and you're having these issues, you're like, I'm not alone. This is great. What did you do? And you can talk and you can have those conversations. And I think that's the big value of being around like-minded people, you know. And that's, as any successful person will tell you, is you can't be in a room full of duds and people expect to, you know, rise above. And I love the saying, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Right. You know, I love that saying. So, you know, in this room, you walk in there and you're just like, a plethora of knowledge. Everybody, all walks of life, coming from all investments and a lot of different areas. You do attract a lot of people from high desert. San Diego comes, Orange County's over here too. I mean, there's people from all over, especially from Palm Springs and things. They're coming from all over to get this knowledge and just network and talk, and really just to share stories and those stories turn into money eventually.
Yeah,
you know?
and for a lot of people, you know. When you're the entrepreneur of the family, when you're the guy that has your own business, you know, everybody else in your family all work a regular job. You know, you kind of get this flack from your family and friends. You know that you're the odd duck to everybody. So to come to the club, it's everybody there is an entrepreneur. We're all in this business together in some form or fashion, and it's nice to at least have a bunch of people around you that say, how can we do that, rather than no, you can't do that, nobody can do that. And you know, you get rid of all those naysayers, because we try to create that positive, uplifting sort of environment. I think it's been working out really well. A lot of people really enjoy it. We love doing it. It's it's been really rewarding for more than just us. Everybody that's been involved, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think in our last couple of meetings, you see it when we do the wants, needs,
the haves and wants,
haves and wants, and you get up people there, and I'm probably going to hopefully do this in a little bit, but you know, people get up there like, I just sold a house, I bought and sold or flipped the house, and I made this much money, and everybody's like, yeah, all right, good job, you know. But you're starting to see that where people are starting to turn this stuff, and they're like, yeah, I did it. Accelerator program that you guys offer was a big program, so hopefully you guys, I think you're doing that again this year.
Yeah, we'll be doing it again in 2018.
2018,
yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think we're going to be doing a second class. That starts in September. We still have to get a few more people interested.
Yeah, so I'm basically what you're doing is you're sitting down people to kind of teach them and help them walk them through. And not only that, but schedule time to actually focus on this, because there's so many distractions out in the world with jobs, kids, and you name it, car breaks down, to actually sit down and focus on real estate and making your own entrepreneurial success. And you're starting to see the fruits of that labor. You know, I mean, like I said, since November, I'm starting to see that, and it's just fantastic to have it come back and be like, man, I remember when you first started. You know, not you, but you know, I remember when you first started. I remember when you first had that first thing, and you mentioned you were interested in that, and now look at you, you're doing it. And I think that is just the power of association overall.
Yeah.
I think that's if anything, if you did nothing, if you didn't want to ever buy a house, but you wanted to be happy, you'd show up on whatever the fourth Wednesday of the month. You just go and you just sit there and you eat the cookies. You know,
eat the cookies.
Eat the chocolate chip cookies.
We're gonna have food now. We're gonna have some food items and stuff. Yeah, it's at the new location. So anybody wanting to come out and have a light dinner.
But don't go for the food though. Make sure you're talking.
Info,
make sure you're talking. Yeah, don't be that guy with a tray and does everything on
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Yeah.
We met. Well, we didn't really meet, but we met through. I actually met you through Steven.
Right.
So Steven had a property that they couldn't get insured from anybody out in Calabasas, way out there. And this property, had like a well with like cyanide in it. I mean, this place was a nightmare. But he, the only company he could find that would insure it was you guys. And I think he just happened to find you looking through the phone book.
Yeah, I don't even know what I'm not even in the phone book. I don't know how we don't know how. I don't know either. It's just one of those dumb luck things that I got lucky. And, if I could help, great. And I think it just happened.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the power of association, the
exactly.
power of universe. Call it what you will. It just happened, and here we are.
Yeah, we were working with another insurance company for a little while that was doing most of our deals, and then we were having these problems with them where they couldn't insure certain properties. So that ended up us kind of pulling out our old Rolodex and saying, all right, who do we know in insurance that they could probably insure this? Because that company was based out of Missouri.
Oh.
They didn't like if the fire line score was like over like 3, they just wouldn't insure it. Yeah. And it's like, that's like most of California. I mean, so, we had a hard time with them. So we ended up calling you guys, and it's been great ever since. So
thank you. Good.
Yeah, we like to keep it that. Yeah.
Fantastic, yes.
But so that was a big deal for us, was just not having a policy not get approved, because when we're in escrow, we don't have a whole lot of time. We got to kind of move the process along. So And I know sometimes I might spring it on Jordan and Marilee that I'm just sort of like, hey, we got this deal, I need to fund it tomorrow. You know, like, you know, sometimes I might, but they're usually pretty quick getting back the quote, so that's great. But yeah, like with this other company, they would take a few days, and then they'd tell us no, and it's like, okay, now I got to find somebody else, and I got to wait a few days. You know, and you got people, the seller's knocking your door down, trying to say, where's my money? You're supposed to close today, you know, and you're like, we don't have insurance yet, you know, and sometimes that was the last kind of like hold up in the whole process was we're just waiting for an insurance policy.
You know, unfortunately, a lot of it, some of it can be the insurance because, you know, especially with the big bear and the fire areas we're talking about, you're doing a second home or vacation rental or full-time rental. Your typical insurance carrier that you have, I mean, I get this all the time, people from LA County, Orange County, they have a policy through a normal carrier that you hear about all the time that has commercials and stuff. And they'll tell them, oh, yeah, we can insure that property, no problem. So here it comes, exactly. You know, it's closing on Friday. Here's Thursday afternoon or even Friday afternoon. And they would submit the request for evidence, so they want the insurance. And all of a sudden that carrier's like, no, we can't do it.
Yeah.
Sorry, you know. And then so they scramble, they hustle, and they find somebody that can. But typically, I mean, depending on the workload and what day it is, time it is, and what's going on, it can be 24 to 48 hours before we even get a quote back from underwriting. So, I mean, it does happen. I mean, when we throw your name around it a little bit, so we get them back a little quicker. But, you know, so someone that just calls up randomly, and they'll call us at 4:30. I got one 2 days ago. It was like 5:05. I'm still in the office, you know, which I am there 24 hours a day. But just saying, they call me and I'm like, I can't do anything at this moment. I'll take the information, sure. I'll do everything on my end, but I mean, we're not going to hear back. They're going to get this, you know, tomorrow morning at whatever 8:39. Maybe get it back by noon. I don't know. But they're like, we need it now. I can't help you because it's not us. Back in the day, and with some carriers, we can do everything's online. But if you're talking about a hard to place policy that is in the desert or whatever else, or in brush areas, no, we can't, because it's not us. It's not our decision. We'll do everything we possibly can within 10, 15, 20 minutes. But I mean, it's not our decision. You can't do it. And that's the problem. People just expect it just to be done at that moment, and we can't. You know, in this day and age of technology and car insurance, 15 minutes and all that stuff. Right. No, it doesn't work that way when you're doing hard houses, hard cases. So, if you do have an issue, if it is difficult to place, get it ahead of time. You know, get it at least 30 days. Anything before 30 days, you can't really do it because quotes are only bound and non-guaranteed for 30 days. But on day 10, 15 days into it, start calling. Get something secure, get something that they'll know what they're doing, and get a backup too, for that matter, because you never know. That one company that, again, you know of, you have your auto insurance, your life insurance, all that stuff with, they may not be able to do that house out in San Diego County or Palm Springs because it's on the hill and it's brush and this kind of thing. It's too far away. That's not really what they do. Yeah, that's just not what they want, so they won't do it. And that's the problem. So get it early.
All right, so let's take out some of the simple questions that happen in insurance for people that don't really understand how insurance works. Because let's say the winds come through and they knock over a portion of your fence, and it's going to cost $800 to fix. Let's talk about what a deductible is, and let's talk about how that plays into that whole factor. Because an $800 fence deductible is probably $1,500 maybe.
Yeah, the deductible is the amount you're willing to pay for the insurance to kick in, is what it is. So I get that a lot. My deductibles, typical deductible is $1,000 typically. Yeah. Now I'm actually starting to see it creep up to $1,500, $2,500, just because people want to pay less for insurance, and maybe they can't afford it if a catastrophic thing. Because remember, insurance is for catastrophic losses. Right. That's what it's for. It's for big stuff. It's not for the little things. It's not. People call me, oh, my bike got stolen out of my garage. Okay, how much is a bike? Well, it's $250. Okay, no. It's not catastrophic. I'm sorry your bike got stolen, but no, it doesn't cover that. And those kind of things. I can think the other day I had one small one too, and it was like $400, and I'm like, your deductible is $1,000. Like, it can't help you. So it's for big stuff. And if you have a claim, in this case, a fence, $1,500, your deductible is $1,000. I hate to say don't make the claim, because typically you as a professional, you have to make the claim. You have to, okay? But if it's $1,500, the thing is that claim is, anytime they pay $1 out, it's a claim. It doesn't $1. If they pay $1 out, that claim stays on your record, depending on which company, usually 3 to 5, sometimes 6 years. It'll stay on your record, and that, whatever carrier is looking at it, will charge you for that loss.
Yeah, for being, a habitual or something like that.
Yeah, well, a lot of it is they have a claims-free discount. That's the big one.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of companies will have this claim-free discount. You haven't had a claim in 5 years, they'll give you a discount. Well, they don't surcharge you for having the claim, but you lose the discount. So your policy premium goes up.
So if you're doing volumes of deals, that
right,
having that
stay on there, yeah,
that would help.
Yeah. So it's recommended. I mean, if you can afford the $1,200, $1,500, pay it by yourself, leave insurance out of it, and just fix the fence. Sorry, that's pretty much how it works. But if you're going to pay out more than, well, it depends on how much you can afford to. If you're going to pay out more than $1,000 and $2,000, if your policy is going to go up $200-300 a month, I'm just making that up, but a year, $200-300 a year. Okay, in 3 years, you figure maybe it's going to go up a total of $1,000. So now you're paying that. Is your claim worth it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So and then when exactly does insurance go in force? I've heard people argue this one before.
Yeah.
So I've filled out an application, I've submitted it, you guys have given me back a quote, or we might even have the evidence of insurance at this point, but you still haven't collected money.
Yeah. The insurance goes into effect when you have a debted interest for the property itself. So I get this a lot of times too. Is you're in escrow. It's going to close on Friday. It's going to close on Friday. Well, on Tuesday, the mortgage company says, we want the insurance in place under this new buyer's name. Okay, well, did it close escrow? No, it closes Friday. Well, I'm sorry, we can't do it today. Well, no, we want it today. That way we know it's in force, and we know we don't have a problem on Friday.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have a vetted interest in that whole thing. Because what happens if that house burns down on Wednesday? Who pays out the claim? At that point, who pays that claim? Do you pay to the owner that lives there now, or the seller or buyer? Who do you pay that to? And the buyer has no vested interest, so really you can't pay them for it.
Until they own it.
Until escrow closes, escrow specifically says, boom, this house is now this new person's property. That's when the insurance goes into effect.
Yeah, and so, but sometimes payment may not have been received by the insurance company for a week. Sometimes, I know if they issue checks, escrow can sometimes be a little slow getting these. Sometimes they get them to the wrong place entirely.
Oh, yeah, I know. Addresses are terrible. It depends on the carrier. Some carriers demand it within 7 days. Some are 15 days. It just depends on when they want their money. Sometimes a broker, if they know it's coming from our escrow company, they know it's good, it's valid, because we worked with them before or whatever, we'll submit it, we'll use our own money, and then you pay it back when the check comes in. I mean, those kind of things happen because you have a trust account and the money just flows in and out. So those things happen, but yeah, typically until the actual carrier demands the money, you don't need to pay it.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm sure you've heard a lot of simple questions, and I'm probably not remembering what the basic insurance questions are off the top of my head. I know that usually they're broken up into two different places. You have liability, and then you have the
dwelling coverage.
Dwelling coverage.
Okay.
Dwelling coverage. I don't know why I can't think of it. So liability would be for injuries. People. It would be for people.
Lawsuits. Yeah. Medical would be more injuries. So you can have medical on $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 for medical. You trip and fall, you go to the hospital, we're going to pay up to that certain amount for hospital bills.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So
liability is all for your lawsuits. I'm suing you, it's your fault.
Yeah, so I have a tree in my yard. My tree falls over onto my neighbor's house. Yes. That's what liability insurance is there to cover.
Yeah, because everybody's going to come after you for damages and what they have and all that stuff. Yeah.
I knew that tree was dry rotted. I wasn't doing anything about it.
No, you never know. Or it just blew over. I mean, the high winds we have every now and then. We're coming up here in a couple months. We'll have some high winds, and especially with the drought and stuff. The plants are small roots and things. I mean, you go the whole horticulture, but yeah, all of a sudden that falls over and you got an issue.
Right.
That's it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So okay, so that's that. That's basically how to read it. A lot of people want to know what kind of coverage they should have, especially on an investment property. Coverage should cover at least rebuilding the home, assuming it ggets burnt to the ground.
Right. Yeah, you always got to assume the worst, unfortunately.
Yeah, so you're assuming the worst. Mm-hmm. And then what about on the liability side? What would you typically recommend?
Well, for a home, I mean, typically $100,000. Well, it depends on your assets. It really depends on your assets. What do you have to lose? If you have multiple properties, a lot of cars, you have a good bank account and everything else. And your difference between $100,000 versus $500,000 is $40 a year.
Yeah.
Well, buy it for $40 a year.
Yeah.
Umbrellas are important too. If you want to get an umbrella for liability, also kind of encapsulate everything that you have. $1 million, you can buy an umbrella for $250 to $300 for an umbrella.
And I think we are running a little short on time. I wanted to talk a little bit about business insurance, but I don't think we have enough time to talk about it. Because sometimes people have nice offices and they don't want to have everything go completely out of the way. So we're going to have to save that for another episode. Which I think we're going to have you back anyway, because we didn't even talk about your flipping experience. So
Well, I mean, real quick, the flippy, you get around these people.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
A broad-based sell-off on Wall Street, starting with fears about White House disarray and intensifying